Hello, and welcome back to another Daily Dose episode on the Chris McPherson Show. We're talking all things NBL and our power rankings today. Of course, don't forget to hit subscribe down below on YouTube, and you can follow along on your favorite social media channels to keep up to date in between our episodes each and every day and throughout the week. You can find us on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Facebook at The Chris Mack Show for all your updates and weekly takes coming through to you. But it has been a big week in the NBL. Illawarra parting ways with Ja'Cory McLaughlin was one of the headlines. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, Southeast Melbourne have added another import, bringing in former NBA man Wes Awundu. The Ignite Cup also tipped off with a bang in its inaugural season. And finally, for Melbourne United fans and fans of the NBL, CG43 getting some court time. We saw some big wins that were reshaping the early season ladder. We're going to break it all apart for you on today's episode and give you all the key takeaways as well as how we see where everyone sits. Let's recap what happened in week 4. And as I said, the Ignite Cup got started with a statement. The New Zealand Breakers, who looked like they couldn't beat time with a stick, managed to hammer the Hawks by 29 points at home. And unsurprisingly, PJC was leading the way. Parker Jackson Cartwright was electric. 20 points and 17 assists, the most in a 40-minute NBL game ever. The Breakers' shooting was hot. The Hawks' night was ice cold. And by the end, it was McLaughlin's time that was wrapping up at the club. His final appearance in Hawks colours. They part ways. Later that night on the Wednesday came the Sydney Kings up against Melbourne United, two of the powerhouses of the NBL. And United, well, they just kept on rolling. They continued and maintained that undefeated streak after another sharp shooting night, going nearly 50% from deep. Tyson Walker was everywhere with 27 points. Jesse Edwards was a monster on the glass, bagging plenty of rebounds. The Kings weren't poor. Kendrick Davis and Xavier Cooks both hit 21, and Xavier Cooks also added 10 boards. The signs are there. The execution just needs some consistency. We then headed to Thursday night and back to usual transmissions, and Adelaide hosted Tasmania, and the 36ers made a statement proving they are legit against another playoff contender. Bryce Cotton keeps doing Bryce Cotton things, 29 points, 9 assists. The Iceman Isaac Humphries added 24 as well, and Cotton showed how dangerous he can be with some great assistance. Does end Tassie's wonderful away run of wins to start the season. Though positive signs for them, Bryce Hamilton dropping 22 and 9 to show he is still elite and will be a force to be reckoned with throughout the season. We headed to Friday night, Cairns versus Perth, and it's another tough loss for the Taipans at home. Just shows when Jack McVeigh goes quiet, so does Cairns, and he was quiet again. For the Wildcats, though, Joe Luala-Chul Jr., 30 points and 10 rebounds, and Dylan Windler, 26 and 11. Tore it up for the Wildcats. That front court combo looking so dangerous, and a dynamic duo that's going to go a long way to steering the Wildcats towards playoff basketball. We went to Saturday in Illawarra versus Brisbane, two sides that were struggling. The Hawks coming back from that loss over in New Zealand. Both have had issues recently releasing their imports, with Freeman, Liberty, and McLaughlin heading away, both desperate for a win. The Hawks click 7 players in double figures, a 27-point win. Never looking back after leading by 16 at quarter time, and certainly by far their best team effort of the season. It wasn't just the JaVale McGee show, and that's what we need to see from the Hawks. Later that night, it was Adelaide versus Sydney, and this was a grudge match. The Kings bounced back in a big way. Kendrick Davis torched his old club with 22. And what about Kawhi coming off the pine to hit 29 points, while Suarez, the Brazilian star, bullied the paint with 14 and 12. He just seems to be really coming into his own, the Kings big man. The Kings won by 24 in front of 10,000 stunned Adelaide fans as they suffered their first defeat of the season. We head to Sunday, and it was Melbourne Day. The Phoenix went across the Tasman, trailed by 12 at the half, but stormed home to beat the Breakers by 6. Overcoming Sam Menenga's 29 and 11, which was huge, but not enough to stop Southeast Melbourne, as all 5 of their starters scored double digits and contributed across the board. A proper team win for Josh King's men. Sunday evening, it was United. They smashed Cairns by 35 to remain the only undefeated side at the end of week 4. Chris Golding returned with aplomb, 16 points. Edwards matched him as well in the starting lineup. They held the Taipans to just 60 points. A statement win, a defensive statement, and Melbourne United, unsurprisingly, will kick off our power rankings. Speaking of those power rankings, Melbourne United maintain their hold on number one spot. Undefeated, CG43 is back. They look scary deep. Goulding, Edwards, Walker, Doyle, just to name a few. Good luck stopping this rotation. They are the benchmark for a reason. In number two, the Adelaide 36ers, they cling on to second spot, but they dropped their first game. Not panicking just yet. They are still legit. Bryce Cotton and Isaac Humphries are carving some real chemistry. DJ's starting to find his range as well. The challenge is now sustaining it as teams start to figure them out and how to take them on. On the move, on the rise, the Perth Wildcats quietly building. JLA and Windler are the form pairing of the league. Depth is going to be their question mark. Can the Wildcats cover if one of these players goes down or goes cold? That's going to be the big question for them. They're pretty healthy as a squad right now, but if they start to cop some knocks, how will that shape for the Wildcats? We will only know with time. In four, it's the Sydney Kings. Back in rhythm, Davis, Cook, Suarez, all firing. At their best, they are an absolute contender. Unfortunately, as we've already seen this year, at their coldest, they are very beatable. Consistency will define their ceiling. What can Brian Goorjian get out of his men? If there's anyone that can help the players reach their ceiling, it is Goorjian. Into five, and it's the Tassie Jack Jumpers. Back-to-back losses, but no reasons to panic just yet. They've barely played at home, just one fixture to start the season, and still look dangerous on the road. Rott's culture is rock solid, and he will continue to get the best out of them. Bryce Hamilton is firing. He is one of the better imports this season and will continue to do so. I think the Tasmania are sitting okay just now. Into six, a riser, Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. Just a small sample size, only 3 games, but they are continuing to improve. Balanced scoring, defensive grit. Now, adding a man who's played over 200 games in the NBA in Wes Awundo could lift their ceiling. Josh King has them tracking in roughly the right direction as they sit mid-table and are certainly there or thereabouts. In 7, it is the Illawarra Hawks, the defending champions. A big week emotionally for them, but they responded with their best win of the season. You feel like they could be close to turning a corner under Justin Tatum. We know what they can get out of their players, but it's just to see how he manages to maintain that if he can get them back with all cattle on deck and being fit and healthy. Into 8, and it is the Cairns Taipans, and 2 poor showings. If Jack McVeigh, is quiet, the team goes flat and can't win. That's the story the stats are telling us at the moment. Adam Ford's challenge now is how to unlock his star again and get his lineup firing. Andrew Andrews is clearly a gun as well, but just doesn't seem to be able to play a lone hand and carry the team to a win. So they need to find out what that key to the chemistry is and how they can manage to find McVeigh firing again like they did in their early games. In 9, the New Zealand Breakers off the bottom for the first time. All thanks to 2 men, Sam Menenga and Parker Jackson Cartwright. They're doing a lot of heavy lifting, but they can only do so much when it's just 2 of them. Also, the team cannot keep blowing double-digit leads. If they learn how to close, learn how to play out 4 quarters, they will climb. It's only a matter of time, but they need to find that. If they can find that key, it could unlock quite a lot for the Breakers. And in 10th, the Brisbane Bullets. Chaos, imports gone, injuries, inconsistency, issues with culture. The roster says potential playoffs. The output at the moment says bottom 2. Culture reset is badly needed. They need to find something, and they need to find it fast. Otherwise, they're going to be anchored to the bottom of the ladder for the majority of this season. So that closes out our round 4 power rankings. We head into week 5. That gets underway tomorrow night. We've got the Ignite Cup as Tasmania heads home. They will take on Sydney at My State Bank Arena on Wednesday night. The second game will be Perth versus Brisbane. That's going to be an interesting one. A huge travel for Brisbane. A chance for Perth to further stamp themselves. Then head to Thursday, Adelaide versus Southeast Melbourne. This is Southeast Melbourne's first chance to see maybe Awundo in action. We'll see whether he's on deck at that point. Up against an Adelaide side that we have seen vulnerability. Sydney managed to get the win against them, and we'll see how that continues on. And then on Friday night, it will be the Breakers versus Tasmania over in New Zealand. Again, an opportunity for the Jack Jumpers to continue, or the Breakers to continue to drag themselves away from the bottom. It'll be interesting to see what that delivers in the early Friday game. The late Friday game, Brisbane versus Melbourne United. It's a tough week for Brisbane. They head to Perth and they head home to take on Melbourne United, 2 of the form teams of the competition. They really need some easier games, but they're not going to get them. So maybe steel hardened steel, and maybe this is what brings out the best in them. Either that, or we'll see the true colours of Brisbane, and they'll be absolutely drubbed in back-to-back games. Saturday, the early game, Cairns versus Adelaide. Adelaide head up to the Taipans. And again, we'll head into this one you would expect as favourites. But can Jack McVeigh get going? Can we see some more from Andrew Andrews or Admiral Schofield? The imports, can they start to star? Rain Smith from the outside. Cairns have got the pieces. They just can't get them to click. Saturday night, Southeast Melbourne take on Illawarra. Two of the sides in the middle of our power rankings and in the middle of the table. It's going to be a tooth and nail battle for a lot of these sides when it comes down to it, looking for play-in spots later in the season. And these sorts of games are going to be so crucial. And finally, we head to Sunday afternoon, a doubleheader. It's the Melbourne United side hosting the New Zealand Breakers. Will United close out round 5 still undefeated with those two games? Only time will tell. And they close it all out with an absolute cracker. 4:30 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. The Sydney Kings play host to the Perth Wildcats. Joe Luala-Chul and Dylan Windler coming up against Xavier Cooks and Kendrick Davis. It's going to be a mouth-watering clash to close it all out for round 5. Make sure you catch all the games. Plenty of cracking basketball this week, and every game having influence and stories and narratives to build. But that is our Week 4 Power Rankings recap and wrap up, as well as a Week 5 look ahead on the Daily Dose. If you enjoyed it, hit subscribe. Even if you didn't, hit subscribe anyway. We'd love to have you on board for some of our other content. Drop your thoughts. Let us know who we got right, who we got wrong, why we're off on some of them in the comments down below. And make sure to follow us across our social media channels at The Chris Mack Show. We'll be back with plenty more content across this week. And, of course, we'll be back next week after round 5 with more takes, highlights, and power rankings. We look forward to catching you on your home of all the black and white in your sports opinion.